Welcome everybody to Debate 101. That's perfect, yeah. Welcome everybody to Debate 101 camp. My name is Chuck McCarthy. I'm just gonna take a couple minutes to introduce myself. My name is Chuck McCarthy, and this is Emily Wingert. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And we have been the instructors for your students for the past week. Thank you for joining us today on Friday afternoon to see the culmination of their hard work. A little background about myself before we begin. I am a 20-plus year veteran teacher in New Jersey. I am a history teacher, a public school history teacher. I am also a coach of various different sports and so on. I have been with Capital Debate for 5 years, and I have been the director of the in-person camps prior to COVID. And I have also worked as their director of their online debate club, which has been entering now its 5th year. This is my 5th online experience this summer with Capital, and I had a very enjoyable time, and I would like to turn it over to Emily.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Emily. I am much younger and much less experienced, but I'm going into my sophomore year of college at the University of Central Florida with an electrical engineering major. However, I've been doing speech for about 5 years now. I competed in original oratory on the high school circuit, qualifying for 2 national tournaments during my time on the team. And now I compete with UCF on their speech team, doing a multitude of events from prepared speeches to impromptu speeches. So I very much cover the speech aspect of things, whereas Coach Chuck is just absolutely amazing at the technical debate aspects. So it's been a pleasure working with these kids this week. And yeah, there's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you. So just to give you a little bit about what we've been doing, to give you an idea of what's happened. So obviously, since the public health crisis, a lot of what we've been doing has now turned into online. This has always been a component of Capital Debate, where, as I said, for the past 5 years. So what we've done is we've transferred in the regular school year, which is essentially what your students have done this week. And we have transferred it into a camp, so to speak. This is Debate 101. So what this is to begin them, and public speaking, to begin their journey, hopefully, into this wonderful activity of debate. What we did this week was to give them public speaking tips on how to speak publicly, how to construct a speech, how to research a speech, and how to organize. So all these skills have been put forth, and today is the culmination of a week's worth of hard work. The skills that we are giving your student can be obviously put through debate, and we're using public speaking as the way to move it. What they're going to be learning are tools that they can use throughout their entire life, academic life, and beyond. It teaches them how to organize. It teaches them how to advocate for themselves. It teaches them how to speak in a way that is to get their point across without being in a negative or in a non-combative way. So that is what we're essentially been doing. And what we've done is we've given them the topic on what they're going to do. What we've done is we've showed them how to research online. We've showed them how to do various different things with the computers, what's good research, what's not. And these are tools that they can use in their academic journey, specifically as they're going forward to researching whatever they may have to research throughout school. Okay. that is essentially what we've been doing. And what we've done is we've provided them the topic that they were going to be using. Now, the topic we gave them, or in terms, the argument or the resolution, was something that is within the news right now. And obviously, it is something that is extremely relevant and, in some cases, invasive. Social media. Social media is the topic. And what we did, we gave them a topic that they were either going to be, and they were assigned either to be for, pro, or against, con, this particular topic. And the topic was government regulation of social media does more good than harm. And that is what they were doing. They had to construct a 4-minute speech with reasons and evidence on if they, and this on either if they were for it and reasons why and evidence why, or against it, reasons why and evidence why, and which will give them an opportunity to take a side, talk about it. And that's the beginnings of the steps that we're hoping. Okay, so that's that. And now what we'd like to do right now is we'd like to take some moment to speak about the students and who we worked with all week. And what we'll do is we'll take them one at a time, and we'll tell you a little bit about them, and hopefully highlight, and we will definitely highlight the accomplishments that they had. So if you could flip the slide, that'd be great. First is Sunny. You go first, and then I'll go, please.
Yeah, so it has been an absolute pleasure working with Sunny this week. I think she finished her speech like on maybe the second day we finished, like we even started working on it. She just sat down, put her, her nose to the grindstone, and just wrote a speech that is truly persuasive and intelligent and very, very well done. Her ability to work as hard as she does and produce such high quality content is really, really pleasing to see. And it is so easy to teach her because she just picks up on things so well.
Yes, and to fill in the blanks of what I totally concur with everything that Emily said about Sunny. She did impress me, and the amount of effort she put in and work that she put in was unique at the early stages. I mean, she was very much putting her 2 feet forward, if you will, into getting this done. And she is very receptive to coaching, if you will. When any advice that we gave her, she immediately took and changed the speeches to make it better, which is a quality and is a compliment to her. So snaps for Sunny. Yes.
Snaps for
Do
Sunny.
snaps here,
yes.
Snaps for Sunny. Yes. All right. Next.
Justin. Oh, it was such a pleasure working with Justin this week. Yeah, I remember, and I'm sure Coach Chuck would have said the same thing, but the first thing that comes to my mind is me and Coach Chuck were just scrolling through the kids' Google Docs, their speeches, making sure everything was looking in order. And we get to Justin's speech and we see, he says, I know this is a serious topic, so here, enjoy these pictures of golden retrievers. And he just had pictures of the cutest golden retrievers I've ever seen. And I think that really just goes to show Justin has the most optimistic personality, and it shines in his speech and the way he delivers his speech and the passion he has is very extensive. He is genuinely such a sweet kid, and it has been a big pleasure getting the chance to work with him this week.
Yes, I agree. And I'm going to even give another Justin story real quick. And when you've been doing this as long as I have, what we try to do is we try to have icebreakers when we come in. And one thing we try to do is have a little routine. So the first day when we meet the students, we always, and it's a routine that I have, what did we have for breakfast? So then we get to see how they talk about themselves. And I believe Justin was either the first or second child to go. And he said, eggs, bread, milk. I said, oh, could you be more descriptive? Can you be a little bit more? Can you give us a little bit more there? And I couldn't have asked for a better example of this involuntarily. He didn't know that I was hoping for this, but he did exactly what I was hoping for, because a lot of young folks are minimalists when they speak, and we wanted him to be more descriptive about what he was saying and eating. So that's what I did. And then by the end of the week, he was Mr. Descriptive on all of what he was doing and all of his meals, even to the point where he asked his father what the particular sauce was that he had on one of his lunches, and he referred to it as mystery sauce, which we constantly let him know about. But he's a pleasure. He is a hard worker too, and he's very receptive. And great job, Justin. Snaps for Justin.
Snaps for Justin.
Yes. Next.
Alex. Where do I start with Alex? One thing I noticed about Alex is that when he's sitting there in class, he always looks so incredibly bored. And I'm like trying my hardest to keep everything entertaining and try and make sure that everything's, not just a bore. But man, when he delivers his speech, does he flip that switch? And he truly uses so many good persuasive tactics in his ability to speak and his ability to write. And it's amazing seeing him go from a kid who I really thought didn't care about the class at all to this kid who is just giving a super, super passionate, persuasive speech. Seeing him able to change like that and work like that is really, really, really nice to see. And look at that goofy smile. I mean, come on. He's such a great kid. It has been really fun working with
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I agree. He's very relaxed. That's what it was too. And sometimes when you're so relaxed, I'm like, Alex, you're right. He's like, yeah, yeah. He's very, very relaxed. So it was, and also he was very funny that first day. Remember with the vacuum, which was very funny too, because he was having
Oh
trouble when
yeah, the
when
vacuum.
the lady was behind him with the vacuum. That these are all the perils that happen with online learning, clamps where you have, animals and puppies and little children and brothers and sisters and vacuums. So he did an exhibiting all of his.
Are you there, Coach Chuck? I think one of our internet's cutting out.
Oh, hi. Looks like everything's going great. Why don't you, Emily, why don't you roll with it?
Yep, I am gonna do just that. All
Looking
right,
good.
well, yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to hear entirely all of what Coach Chuck had to say about Alex, but amazing job this week, Alex. You really got out of your shell, and I could see that, and I could see the work you put in your speech. So snaps for Alex. Everybody snaps for Alex. Moving forward. Oh, Zach. Zach. Zach, the biggest thing that stands out to me about Zach is he is without fail always the first person back to class after we get sent on a break or we get sent to lunch or just even in the beginning of the day. He's always the first one there, camera on, microphone on, ready to get the day started, ready to get the work going. And that level of dedication is just so so encouraging to see that the kids, it makes me feel like the kids are excited to show up and excited to be here, and it makes me feel really, really good. And I just love that enthusiasm and that his ability to tackle every day with a smile on his face. He is very, very knowledgeable about politics, and it is really a nice trait to have in speech and debate. So he's put in the work this week. He's got a great speech going for him, and it has been a pleasure to work with him.
Can you hear me?
I can, in fact, hear you. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the perils of online learning there. So we lost the Wi-Fi there for a minute. Yeah, so just about Zach, I would kid him, and when we would talk, I would say, we recognize the congressman from Westchester County, Representative Zachary Stark, and he would go, and he's as just to parrot what Emily would say, he's a very hard worker. He's always first there, and he was very inquisitive on what he wanted to do, which means he had a lot of passion about what he was learning and what he was doing, and he wanted to make sure that he was correct, which is a pleasure when you're teaching class. So, snaps for Zach.
Snaps for Zach.
Yeah, snaps for Zach. Okay, next.
Bianca. Oh, I absolutely love Bianca's ability to adapt to the feedback she's getting. I'm sure me and Coach Chuck can both agree on this. When we began on Monday, Bianca was the quietest kid in the entire classroom. She was I don't know whether it was nerves or if she's just a quiet speaker, but it was always a struggle to hear what she was saying because she spoke so quietly. And we would tell her, we're like, Bianca, you gotta project your voice, you gotta speak up. And just an hour ago, like an hour and a half ago maybe, Bianca gave her final speech for me, and the progress she made over the course of the week is incredible to see. She was loud and confident and using her voice to its full extent. And it was truly amazing to see. And it shows a lot about her as a student and as a person, her ability to listen to the feedback she's getting, but not only that, actually go forth and implement it. It's super easy to hear what people are telling you should do, but it's a true show of character to be able to process that and then actually do it. So big hands down to her for being able to do that.
Yeah.
And she's an incredible student. It's been a pleasure working with her.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was funny too when we first started, when we were given the breakfast, we were like, "I'm sorry, what was that?" And we're like, "Bianca, you have to speak up. It's a speech class." And she would smile with the smile that she has on in the picture. And then, as just to parrot what Emily said, by today, she was 180 degrees from where she was on Monday, which is exactly what we were hoping she would be, and it's a credit to her. So, snaps to Bianca.
Snaps to Bianca.
Yes.
And
next,
last but certainly not least, Asher. Asher, my favorite thing about Asher is he was just always a tiny little fluff of hair in his screen on his camera when we would just be in class sitting. His webcam was always angled such that all you could see was just the tippy top of his head. And he was always so quiet. And then he stands up to give his speech, and it is like so completely different. He has so many natural speaking characteristics that are really, really nice to see in a person. He's got good, like he's got projection and inflection and confidence, and he's got a really, really strong ability to write a convincing speech. So he really went from the person that you could barely see in class to the person that you couldn't help but see and listen to when he's giving his speech. He really just carries that air of confidence and assuredness in his speaking, and it is really nice to see. He truly put in the work this week to get his speech done and ready, and it is a very good one.
Yes, I agree. He did a very good job, and he's worked hard, and again, just like we've been saying the same things over, because it's a pleasure, because as an instructor, when the students are very receptive to what we've been saying, and Asher is without question definitely the child that did that the most, because he was constantly constantly changing his case, constantly trying to get things the way to make it better. So that was a credit to Asher. So snaps for Asher.
Snaps for Asher.
Okay, next slide, please.
Yep.
All right, so I'll take this one, kiddo. All right, so share your voice. Parents who are in the room, and also students that are here. I've been working for Capital for 5 years, and the line was always somebody in San Diego always reads everything that you are put in these surveys, and that is the truth. They do. We take everything that you put into these surveys seriously. We take the feedback quite seriously. The sessions change from week to week because of the feedback that is taken and from what you have given. And it is extremely important. We want to make the program better. We're striving to make the program better. So if you could please take a moment to fill this out. You'll see parent survey at capitaldebate.com, and then of course student survey at capitaldebate.com. So I'll give you a moment to get that down, and then we'll move on.
Yep, I'll leave it up for just a moment so that
Yep.
you can get it down.
And please answer, because please take a moment to do so, because we very much value your feedback. I think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So today only, you heard it here first, folks. You can get an actual coupon code using the code NEXTClass2020 to get $50 off the next camp, which is a pretty sick deal if you ask me. The next class we have in line for these kids is Debate 201, which is where they're actually going to have to debate another person. Right now, we're just mimicking a lot what the opening speech would look like, where they present their case in a persuasive style. In the next class, we go much more in depth in that, where they actually debate against another person arguing the opposite side. So they have to be able to form a rebuttal as a completely impromptu speech with little prep time. And it really just takes all of these fundamental skills we've worked on getting solid over the course of this week, and we go much, much deeper with them to not only get the kids to be able to perform well when they're prepared, but also when they have to speak impromptu. So we highly recommend signing up for the Debate 201 class, and we hope to see some of the kids there next week as well, or in any of the following weeks. And moving forward, this is just some more programs that Capital offers. So
Yep,
do you want to talk about those, Chuck? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So we also have, besides the program that Emily just spoke about, 201, which is the transition, or the next step in the process of becoming a better public speaker. We have other things that we're going to be speaking about too. We have legal communications, business communications, interpersonal communications, and STEM communications. Legal communication is, you would be It would be if you have a budding lawyer in your that you think you may want to be going in that route. There would be a class on how to speak, obviously, in a courtroom type setting, rather. Legalese, if you will. Business communication is the next one, which is essentially like it is not like, it's actually Shark Tank, where the students will come up with a product and they'll have to present it, and they're going to have to literally pitch a product into not even just specifically what this is. It goes into other areas and focuses more on the actual nonverbal, verbal, as well as the presentational skills without actually having something to research and so on and so forth. And then finally, STEM communication, which is obviously a big thing these days. And what would happen would be, in that particular camp, what they would do is they would have some sort of a science or technological project that they would have to speak about, and they would have to defend and basically sell to the judges on why their particular project would be the one that they should take. And then, of course, more debate. 201, 301, it's in general transition. 201 is where they would be, 201 would be very similar to this, where they'd be side-locked, meaning that they would be preparing for debate, and they would debate against another child. And then through, and going through the format of debate and the various different rules of debate, and constructing different parts of the debate. So there would be the opening, which they've already done, which is the speech they've already done. And then there is the rebuttal, which would be another prepared speech. And then the closing, which is another prepared speech. I have a preference to this because I've been dealing with this now, and I've been working with this for almost 5 years. And I highly recommend it. 301 would be, obviously, they would be preparing 2 speeches, where they've been only preparing one. They'd prepare the pro and the con to argue both sides. And that is the transition that we hope that your student will take. Next slide, please, Em.
Yes. Oh, and if you have any questions, there's some
Oh, yes,
contact
sorry.
information down there. You can always take a screenshot of this screen if you're interested in asking any questions or contacting Capital in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
But
you'll see that number in that email again.
yeah.
So. Next slide, please.
Yeah, it should be showing. Is it not?
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, it just came on mine. All right. So this is essentially what I've been discussing and what I've been involved with for the past 5 years. This has been a part of the Capital family, but now with adversity brings ingenuity. The adversity of the lockdown and the health crisis has made this more of an option and more of a activity that breeds to be in your own home, irregardless of what's happening with schools in regards to the health crisis and going and going out. What's going to happen here is it's transformed a little. Dealing with this for a while, so I can talk about it. Not every high school or not every middle school has a debate team. And what this is this provides an outlet if your son or daughter likes debate. And I am a big fan of this. You would be doing it very similarly to we're doing right now, would be on Tuesday or Wednesday evenings. And you'll be doing it in the privacy of your own home. It's for an hour in the evening. And then what would you be doing is you'd be having like-minded students like your child in a virtual area debating. And that is something that is a wonderful option if your child likes this. And you'll see registration's open now. There's going to be now monthly debate tournaments, weekly practice debates, workshops, clinics, online resources. And you can see if you'll save $100 if you register prior to the 14th of August. They are more than welcome in corporate to answer all your questions about this. At the next slide, we'll have the information and the number and where to talk to them. I am very much a believer in this program. I am very much a supporter of this, and I find it a very, in these uncertain times when we do not know what can be done for young folks to be working with other young folks. I mean, we don't know about activities at schools. We don't even know if schools will be open. We don't know anything about athletics in schools. We don't even know if athletics are going to be able to happen. This will happen. This is something that will be able to fulfill that social need for your child. So there you go.
Next slide.
Yes.
Yes.
And keep in touch. If you have any questions about any of what we've discussed, or any questions about any of the programs, the following camps, debate league that's going to be starting when the school year starts, there's the 800 number, and there's the email, and somebody in the corporate offices in San Diego will get in touch with you. Okay, so great.
Yep. So if that's the case, I suppose
we can stop sharing now. Yeah.
Stop sharing that screen. Has it gone away?
The fruit of their hard work. They're going to present their speech on the topic, and the topic is, of course, government regulation of social media does more good than harm, excuse me. Government regulation of social media does more good than harm. They have researched, and they have worked on a 4-minute speech. What we're going to do, we're going to call them up one at a time, and they will be on the screen. Emily or myself will keep the time. It is a 4-minute speech. So what Emily and I will do, we will count down the time and let them know when their time is up. So if we could have the first debater to come up, and that first debater is Zach. If Zach could turn his camera on. Outstanding, Zach. Emily, would you mind taking the time, keeping the time for Zach? And
yes.
Emily and I are going to turn our cameras off. Okay.
All right. Zach, I'm going to start the time on your first word, so you just go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Social media may very well be the strongest influencer in the transferring of modern day information. But is it acceptable for these companies to be the only ones regulating what is allowed to be said? Hi, I'm Zachary Stark, and I affirm the resolution that government regulation of social media does more good than harm, for the following reasons. The first reason being that social media companies have the ability to silence political voices and sway elections to their liking. And the second reason being that government intervention could help prevent cyber terrorism. The first reason, a good example of the political bias is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's Twitter account being suspended after posting a video of BLM protesters threatening him. Another example of this is when President Trump tweeted out against violence and lawlessness in so-called autonomous zones. Twitter flagged these tweets as discriminatory and violent against a certain group of people. So as the President of the United States, it is his job to say something about current events and to speak out against things that he definitely has the right to speak out against this kind of violence. Second reason that government intervention in social media does more good than harm is that the government will do a better job of regulating what is cyber terrorism and what is freedom of expression. 90% of terrorism on the internet takes place via social media. Terrorist groups use these platforms to recruit members all over the world. An example of this is the terrorist group called Boko Haram released a YouTube video defending their bombing on Kano, Nigeria. Another example of this is the terrorist group ISIS, having released numerous videos of beheadings. ISIS was banned from most mainstream social media platforms in 2014, not before they released plenty of violent and questionable content. With the government involved, they can make sure that there's more efficient and immediate bans of things like this in the future. Government regulation is so important because these platforms can be used to jeopardize national safety, and this is something that needs to be addressed. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Social media definitely is the strongest influencer in the transfer of modern-day information and can influence elections, silence political voices, and be unwilling or unable to stop terrorism on their sides. It is not the job of these platforms to decide what is able to be said and who is able to be silenced. That is the job of the United States government. Thank you.
All right, snaps for Zach.
Well done, Zach. You bounced out of there too quick, man. I got some snaps. All right. So next we have Justin. Justin, please turn your camera. All right, my man. You know the drill.
Hello.
Turn my camera off. Hello. Turn my camera off. 4 minutes starts. 3, 2, 1, go.
Remember back a couple of years ago when Russia used social media to unfairly boost Trump's chance of winning the election, or when many high-profile Twitter accounts like Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Gates, and more were hacked asked for Bitcoin just earlier this month? Hi, my name is Justin, and today I'm going to affirm the resolution that government regulation on social media companies does more good than harm. My three main reasons are: one, it can crack down on disinformation and help stop illegal activities. Two, it can prevent social media from being used unfairly in elections. And three, it can prevent monopolies. My first reason is that government regulation can help stop disinformation and crack down on illegal activities. According to Bellingcat, which is a fact-checking website, early in the coronavirus pandemic, there's misinformation about potential coronavirus cure called chloroquine, which turned out not to be true. There were also similar examples of the virus in Australia and a lab in Wuhan supposedly creating the coronavirus. Young people are especially vulnerable to disinformation. Internet safety is also important, as many high-profile accounts were hacked earlier this month, including Obama. If their accounts get hacked, which say your account can't get hacked and your information stolen, this is why it's good to have government regulation to protect your information. My second reason is that government regulation can prevent social media from being used unfairly in elections. Remember back a couple years ago when Russia used social media to interfere in the 2016 U.S. election? This is backed up by evidence from an independent federal investigator. They used thousands of bots pretending to be Americans supporting radical political parties and created events for Trump and against Clinton. Because social media is used worldwide, this would affect every country's election, or countries that have elections. And this isn't the only example. In the 2018 Brazil election, there are massive amounts of false and damaging information on candidate Jair Bolsonaro's rivals, giving him an unfair advantage. My third reason is that government regulation can help prevent monopolies. According to an article from Forbes, just Facebook and Google alone own 60% of online spending market. We should have government regulation to make sure Facebook and Google don't try to make a monopoly. Another article from The Atlantic shows that social media social media presence is not equal across the U.S., as more developed areas have more of a voice, which means that people in less developed areas might not have their voices heard. Government regulation help these people have their voices heard in the economy and the world. In conclusion, I think government regulation would do more good than harm because, one, it can help prevent disinformation and crack down on illegal activities. Two, it can prevent social media from being used unfairly in elections, and three, it can prevent monopolies. Social media interference in the 2016 election and Twitter hacks are reasons enough that we should use government regulation to make social media more safe and fair for everyone. Thank you.
Yes. Snaps for
Snap.
Justin.
Yes.
Snaps. Good job, my man. Well done.
Yes.
I'm glad you hung around so we could give you snaps. Good for you. Good job, buddy. All right. Next we have Alex. Please come turn your camera on. And Emily, would you mind keeping the time for Alex?
Not at all. All right. Alex, I will start the time on your first word.
We all know that social media is a place for almost everyone. There is always some sort of community you could belong to. Whether you play the kazoo or you're obsessed with animals, you can have an opinion and not be judged for it. You can ask a question and almost certainly get an answer. You can even find things that make you laugh or chuckle a bit. But what if I told you that these amazing qualities were at risk? There has been some discussion throughout the public and throughout the government about the government regulating social media. These regulations are the things putting these qualities at risk. Now, the argument for this is that these qualities need to be sacrificed for the greater good. Well, I, Alex Kottke, today am here to tell you why that is not true through three reasons. One, these regulations are immoral and violate basic law. Reason two, it could deteriorate and destroy the platform. Reason three, it's too late to trust the government to regulate it in the first place. The reason I say it is immoral and it violates basic law is you would probably wonder is because it does. And you're probably wondering how. Well, it actually violates or could violate multiple laws, including the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Also, if the government does end up regulating social media, it would take away the right for the company to manage their own platform, which me, friends, and family, and it seems like the general public all agree that it's unfair and immoral for that. The reason I say that it could deteriorate the platform is because the way social media makes money are through advertisements. And the money they make through advertisements is made to fund the business and make it more fun and convenient for its users. Yet the government might see some of those ads as biased, as most ads are biased towards the specific user using them. And that could lose the company money if they censor them. So if they make less money, then they can't upgrade the platform as much, and it actually could eventually deteriorate the platform. Also, it's not fair to small businesses, as according to the SCORE, 70% of small businesses rely on social media for advertising. Finally, the reason I say we can't trust the government in the first place is because even they are dependent on social media. Examples of this are on Facebook and other sites in 2016. Many people shared their opinion and changed their minds from voting from one person to another. In fact, in 2017 through 2018, according to Pew Research, over half of Americans were involved in some sort of political activity on social media. And in fact, even government members use it. In fact, in 26, the average government official would tweet twice as much today as they did in 2016. So after this abundance of information, this proves that it could be disastrous if we let the government regulate social media. And even though there is good, the harm definitely outweighs it, which is why social media best stay independent.
Yes.
Snap.
Snaps for Alex. Well done,
Yeah.
sir. Nice job. All right. Good job, my friend. Next, we have Bianca. Please turn your camera on. Bianca, please turn your camera on. There she is. All right. I'll turn my camera off. Okay. Whenever you're ready, kiddo.
Social media has been in our lives for about a decade now. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook used to be a place where you can share with your friends what's happening in your life. Now, social media has become so dark and toxic to the point where it's causing teens to experience hateful remarks like racism on a daily basis. Hi, I'm Bianca, and today I will be talking about why government regulations on social media would do more good than harm. The three reasons I have to prove this are, first, the government would do a better job of limiting the amount of cyberbullying that takes place online. Next, government regulations would give legitimacy to things sold on social media. Lastly, the government would be able to lessen the political propaganda, which is very prevalent on social media. My first reason is the government would do a better job of limiting the amount of cyberbullying that takes place online. According to The Guardian, the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, wants governments to regulate more harmful content, election integrity, privacy, and data portability. These four areas are where the Facebook team and many other social media platforms have failed to address these issues. Also, according to the British Broadcasting Corporation, a 15-year-old said on a survey, social media companies should take complaints more seriously. With the government in power, they will be able to ensure that social networks report cyberbullying data, as well as intensify the consequences for those who break the rules. My second reason is that the government regulations would give legitimacy to things sold on social media. According to Forbes, during this pandemic, unscrupulous advertisers falsely claimed that items like toilet paper would run out during this pandemic. These ads make it very difficult for people to not be vulnerable to traps like these and causing them to spend their money in unintelligent ways. Also, according to Pointer, in an ad on Instagram, the company Military Tees had made a high-quality drone $100 instead of $800. The buyer, Raul Gonzalez, received this drone in a plastic bag. It broke within minutes. Although this may seem unacceptable, both Instagram and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commissions, have concluded that accounts like these are not a violation of their endorsement policies. My third and final reason is that the government would be able to lessen the political propaganda, which is very prevalent on social media. The FCC or the Federal Communication Commissions most likely would be the ones regulating our social media. According to the FCC, 3 of the 5 members are Republicans, while the rest are Democrats. Although there are more Republicans than Democrats, that does not mean that the decisions made by this association would be biased. Also, on Twitter, Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeted out, Facebook is paying for its own glowing fake news coverage, so it's not surprising they're standing their ground on letting political figures lie to you. Although Facebook knows that political figures are lying about each other and profiting off of it, they don't seem to be the least bit concerned about this issue. In conclusion, government regulations on social media would do more good than harm. This is because they'd be able to limit the amount of cyberbullying, provide legitimacy to items sold on the internet, and lessen the amount of political propaganda. As our world evolves, our technology is becoming more advanced and more dangerous. This means that our government must take a step forward and help regulate our social media. Thank you.
Yes. Snaps. Bianca.
Snap.
Very good.
Very good job,
Snaps for
Bianca.
Bianca.
Oh, and right
Good
on time
job.
too. Look at that.
Look at that. All right, next, Asher, please turn your camera on. All right, you got this one.
Yes, I do. I will start the time on your first word.
You wake up to find that the government controls your social media. This seems like something from a dystopian novel, right? No. In many countries around the world, the government is already regulating social media. My name is Asher, and today I'll be telling you why I am against the government regulating social media. There are 3 reasons why I don't think the government should regulate social media. The first reason is that we have Amendment 1, which is the freedom of speech and expression. Second reason is that these companies already have guidelines in place to prevent the spread of misinformation and others. 3, these are private companies. They are not connected to the government in any way, therefore should not be controlled by the government. Imagine your daily life being controlled by Amazon or Microsoft. For one, Amendment 1 is the freedom of speech and expression. It says Congress should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or the free exercise thereof, abridging the freedom of speech. Abridging means to reduce or limit. Free speech includes talking online, which is what social media is. If they remove the ability to post what we want, that would be limiting the amount of free speech we have. Second is that these social media companies already have guidelines. According to Freedom Forum Institute, Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Tumblr, and YouTube all prohibit hate speech. Harassment is also strictly against the policies. Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube all have policies against the spread of misinformation, while Facebook tries to contain the spread of misinformation. These guidelines are trying to prevent what the government doesn't want, like misinformation and bias. Third, these are private companies. USA Today claims that private companies can decide what content they want on their social media sites. Supreme Court said merely hosting speech by others is not a traditional exclusive public function and does not alone transform private entity into state actors, subject to the First Amendment. Supreme Court explained that the relevant function performed by YouTube, which is hosting speech by others on a private platform, is not something only the government does. So these 3 reasons, the fact that we have the First Amendment, the fact that these companies have guidelines already and they are private companies, is why I believe that government should not regulate social media. Thank you.
Good job. Snaps for Asher.
Snaps for Asher. Asher snaps. Asher snaps. All right, next we have, last but not least, Bonnie. Sonny. Sorry, Sonny. All right, let me get my set here. All right, Sonny. When you start talking, we will start the time.
Phil Napoli, a professor at Duke University, said, "I think a compelling case can be made that social media platforms are in some need of government regulation. Clearly, everything needs some restrictions. However, these restrictions shouldn't be controlled by the government." Hi, I'm Sunny, and here are 3 reasons why government regulations of social media companies do more harm than good. First, it would hurt businesses. Second, the government is dependent upon social networks, so they cannot risk regulating them. And finally, authorities controlling social media violate the First Amendment the freedom of speech. The first reason government regulations of social media companies do more harm than good is they harm marketing. Many businesses promote their products and services through media platforms. Social media is the only way for companies' products to be recognized and purchased, particularly for the smaller businesses. According to Observer Research Foundation, an independent think tank based in India, the government should not do any social media regulations that must be done. Collective experience over many industries has shown that government regulations stifle innovation and create monopolies. Governing restrictions on social networks will stop businesses from developing normally and decrease the amount of sellers for certain products. Not only would the companies be in danger, so would the government. The next reason is the government relies on social media, especially during elections, so they cannot afford to regulate it. During the presidential election, candidates utilize public networking to promote themselves. Ever seen candidates on ads before YouTube ads before videos on YouTube ever seen candidates requesting votes on ads before videos on YouTube? In a 2019 Forbes article, a contributor, Caleb Lee Terror, wrote, "There's a great irony of governments around the world lambasting social media platforms to secure their re-elections and listen to their citizenry. Regulating media platforms would restrict their benefits so they can't afford to do so. Not only do government officials rely on social media, so do everyday citizens." Finally, social media is a place where people can express themselves. Since social networking is for people to relate and update themselves on current events, it would be ignorant for the government to control it. In agreement with the First Amendment, restriction would be violating the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the liberty to say or write whatever one believes, and these ideas being restricted surely would be violation. Everyone possesses their own views, and there's someone in the world that shares those opinions. However, if these ideas were contradicting the government's views, they would surely be erased. The government regulations of social media companies do more harm than good because it harms businesses. The government is dependent upon social media, and it would be violating the First Amendment. As Phil Napoli said, although social media needs restrictions, those regulations should not be in the hands of the government. Thank you.
Yes, snaps. Everybody turn, I want all the debaters to turn their cameras on right now. Here we go, snaps. All right, everybody, good for you. Snaps for all of you.
Yeah, fantastic
Snaps
job. Every
for
single
all
one of you.
Good job. Yeah, wonderful job. Now I want you to do on 3. I want you to say thank you when I say 3, okay? And I want to let you know who you're thanking. You are thanking your parents. So turn your mics on. And you're going to thank your parents, okay? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, parents.
That's right, because where would you be without them? Good job. All right, you guys can turn your cameras off. Em, could you turn your camera on real quick?
Of course I can.
I should turn mine on too. All right, that concludes our presentation. I hope you are as happy and as pleased as Emily and I are about how wonderful they all did. And it was a great week. We had a lot of fun. Em, you have anything you want to add?
No, just that it was an absolute pleasure not only getting to work with every single kid this week, but getting to know just a little bit about them and to really see their personalities shine through their speeches. It's always so beautiful to see. So it has been I've had the most fun. This is the best job I could ask for, and it has been a pleasure on my end to get to work with these kids.
Yeah, and it's been a great time, and thank you very much. And again, we hope please fill out the parent survey. And please contact the corporate offices if your son or daughter would like to continue. We'd love to see them again. We'd love to see them for the rest of the summer, and hopefully into the debate league over when the school year starts. So thank you for coming. It was a pleasure. We'll see you all down the road, hopefully. Thank you very much. Have a very nice rest of your day and a very nice weekend. Take care.
Take care.